Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Miami, Season 4, Episode 5. And baby, this was the episode that we were waiting for because that sit down with Todd and Peter, I said, Alexia, the fact that you are sitting here carrying this entire franchise on your back, girl, this is something out of a soap opera. But y'all, let's just jump right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. We start off the episode with Miss Julia. She's at her farm and she's milking her goat. I was screaming that she named her goat Diva. So Martina comes out and she's watching Julia milk the goat and she brings up the foot massage. So she's like, in the 15 years that you and I have been together, I've only gotten one foot massage. Like, what is that about? You're out here touching goat udders. You're out here giving other women foot massages. But when it comes to me, like, you know, girl, what's going on? I said, Julia, if you're smart, you better do the right thing and start giving your wife some daily foot massages before she's out the door. So now Julia brings up the big fight that occurred at her birthday party between Gertie and Adriana. She's like, Gertie has a big personality and Adriana's very fiery. She's very sexy and smooth like a cat. So while she's describing Adriana's personality, she's getting all hot and bothered, talking about, you know, she's all sexy and this and that. And Martina was looking at her like, girl, what? She went on to talk about Adriana's cleavage. I said, again, Julia, you got to stop with this flirtation between you and Adriana because I feel like Martina is not the one or the two. So Julia goes on to say that Gertie was attacked that evening, and then she adds that they need to kiss and make up. Now, do I see that happening? No, but I guess it just sounds nice to say. So now we jump over to a scene with Gertie and her husband, and they're having a cute little date night. But when I tell you, this scene drove me nuts because Gertie talks so damn much. I said, girl, do you take a breath? I mean, Gertie's just going a mile a minute, just won't stop. Like, girl, can you let your husband get a word in? So she's going on and on about how her and her husband are opposites. He's super quiet, she's talkative. I'm like, we know. Then she says that he's dorky and she's cool.
You know what? This is too much.
So now Gertie starts telling her husband what happened at Julia's birthday party and how the other ladies were trying to tear her down and say that she was too much. So she's like, yeah, babe, you know, they were telling me to calm it down. And it's like, no, why should I? I personally don't think that Gertie is a great fit on the show. She's not doing it for me. That's just my opinion. You know, she seems very sweet, but I feel like they kind of dropped the ball on the newbies this year. I think that Julia is a good addition, but Gertie and Nicole, they could have made them friends of the show and had Kiki on as a full-time housewife, in my opinion. So Gertie keeps reiterating that these women don't know where she's come from and what she's had to deal with. And then we find out in her confessional that Gertie is one of 7 kids, and in 2010, one of her brothers passed away along with his 2 daughters in the Haiti earthquake. She says that that day broke her in pieces because she was super close to him and how he always believed in her. He saw something special in her and he always said that she was going places. So when he died, it felt like a piece of her died as well. So now we finally hear her husband, Russell, say a few words, and he says that that's ridiculous, that the other women were trying to down her and how she should keep doing what she's doing. Yes, Adriana was rude to your wife, but that's not the whole story. And your wife did do too much towards the end of that dinner. When it comes to somebody's event or birthday dinner, you should never try to make it about you. And always remember that it's about the guest of honor. There's a time and a place to discuss your life story and talk about your hardships, but at Julia's birthday dinner, that wasn't the time or the place. So now we move on to a fun scene with Marisol, her husband, and Alexia and Todd having a double date. Now, mind you, Alexia is 45 minutes late to this dinner, so Marisol and her husband are getting good and lit. They're drinking all this vodka martinis. I was like, oh, I hope they're not driving because they had a good 4 or 5 of those. And vodka will have you on your ass every single time, okay? And Alexia waltzed in with a very cavalier attitude, like, I'm sorry, girl, you know, we're finally here. So they start talking about bachelorette parties, and Marisol's asking if Alexia wants some hanky-panky, meaning strippers. Todd's like, yeah, I mean, you know, whatever she wants, as long as she has fun, you know, that's cool. So then they start talking about the wedding and the venue. Have they found a location yet? And Alexia's like, no, we're having the hardest time with that because everything is booked because of COVID. Like, people put their weddings on hold. And now, since people feel like things are better now everybody wants to rush and get married. So they can't find any place to have their wedding. Alexia says in her confessional that subconsciously she's dragging her feet about planning this wedding because she really wants Todd and Peter to speak soon. And if that doesn't happen, then there will be no wedding. I said, girl, good luck with that. But we're going to talk more later on about Alexia, Peter, and Todd and that whole situation. So now we see another short scene with Larsa. She's at home with her daughter, Sophia, and Adriana and Kiki come over. Kiki also brings her 2-year-old daughter, Summer, and she is adorable. So they're talking, and they both want the tea about OnlyFans. Because ever since they found out that Larsa makes $10,000 a day, they want in on the action too. I just find it funny how Adriana was shading Larsa, but then she's asking her for advice on how to make an OnlyFans account. It's just so funny how that happens. First they hate, then they copy. So Adriana says that she wants to do feet videos and feet pictures because she doesn't want to show her face. She doesn't want to do anything raunchy. So Larsa's telling Kiki and Adriana what kind of captions to write, how the sexier the picture, the more money you make, and how she prices her feet pics at $5. Adriana says $5? That's kind of low. Like, I'm worth more than $5 a picture. So we see Larsa shading the hell out of Adriana in her confessional, and she's like, Adriana should be lucky if she gets $5 a picture.
You not fab like that to be doing all of that. Learn your place, earn your spot.
Then she says that Kiki will do well and make lots of money because she's sexy, she's beautiful, and she knows how to take pictures. She says Adriana, not so much. She says, look at her Instagram. I mean, look at those pictures. Who wants to pay to see that? Then we see one of the producers in Larsa's confessional ask her what her daughter thinks about her having an OnlyFans. So Larsa says, I mean, my daughter knows what it is. Like, all my kids know, and they don't care. They think that it's like an adult site for moms. I'm like, you do know that your 3 boys are well aware of what OnlyFans is, especially your oldest son who is on his way to the NBA. He definitely knows what it's for. Here's my thing. If you're going to do certain things, then do it and be proud. And don't feel any shame about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't do things and then you're still worried about what people think or, you know, what your kids think, what your mama thinks. It's like, no, you're grown. You're choosing to do this. So own it and stand 10 toes down in it. But again, Larsa, don't try to act like your kids have no idea what's going on. They know. Now we jump over to Nicole. She's at home. Her mom comes over, and they're talking about Nicole's dad and how Nicole does not want to have a relationship with her dad because she's still upset and resentful about him not being around because he went to jail. And then when he got out of jail, he was out chasing the hoes instead of being a family man and wanting to reconnect with her and her brother. I'm gonna just let y'all know right now, I don't find Dr. Nicole's storyline to be interesting at all. I think it's the same old thing. Her personality just isn't giving what the girl said it was supposed to have gave. I'm just finding her personality to be very stale, and I just can't get into her storyline. Honestly, if Alexia weren't on this show with her 5 million storylines that are actually interesting, I mean, Miami would be a flop again. So they all need to thank Alexia for her contributions because, again, she is carrying Miami on her back. Now we jump over to the next scene with Adriana, and she's with her new boyfriend, Jacob, and she's saying that Jacob is sexy and he's very hard to resist. And we find out that they still have not had sex yet because she has her 4-month rule. So now we see Adriana and Jacob pull up to this vintage car dealership, and we find out that Adriana wants a new vintage car. So we see Julia show up, and the way she was grilling the hell out of Jacob, why are you jealous of your friend having a boyfriend? You need to leave Adriana and leave this flirtation behind and focus on your marriage. You need to be more respectful of Martina. There's no reason for you to be feeling some sort of way that Adriana has some love in her life. Then we see Adriana say in her confessional that Julia has opened up her mind about love and sexuality and how she wants to try some new things too. I said, Adriana, I don't believe any of this. I don't know. I just feel like you can always feel when somebody's doing something for a storyline and to have something going on. Like, I'm just not believing that Adriana is now interested in women. I'm not. So Julia brings up what happened at her party, and Adriana says, look, Gertie kept talking over us. It was a big mess, but I will say that I am open to forgiving and forgetting and moving on with Gertie. Now, again, I don't believe a word that's coming out of Adriana's mouth. I feel like Adriana cannot stand Gertie, and she's never going to like Gertie, and at best, she might tolerate Gertie, but I don't see them becoming close friends at all. So now we move on to a short scene with Alexia and Todd, and she's talking about her mom and how she's kind of worried because her mom isn't doing so well health-wise. She says that her mom isn't in a great space, and she's just praying that she'll be okay. Then she starts discussing how she went shopping for a wedding band, and she was looking at one for 9 carats that was $30,000. I said, I know that's right.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
So then Todd says, by the way, babe, I spoke to Peter, and we had a nice phone conversation. So Alexia is super happy because you know it has been weighing on her spirit about her son and her fiancé being at odds. But it is nice to know that Todd and Peter are at least speaking to each other, so there is some hope that he'll attend their wedding. Now we move on and see Lisa and Larsa having lunch, and they're talking about Lisa's marriage and how Larsa is going through this never-ending divorce. And I saw on page 6 that her and Scotty are finally divorced. I said, wow, it only took 3.5 years. May I just quickly say that Lisa and Larsa are quite boring. And as much as I like Lisa, I'm like, girl, what do you have to bring to this season? So, of course, Lisa's asking Larsa questions about why did she and Scotty get divorced in the first place. And Larsa says because Scotty didn't support her and what she wanted to do. And that kind of, drove a wedge between them. Larsa continues by saying that it was years of her taking care of the family by herself and how she was pretty much like a single parent because Scotty was always moving, he wasn't at home, and it just got to be enough. Then she says that she feels guilty for divorcing Scotty because she grew up with her parents together, and because her kids can't say the same, she's upset about that. But again, you have to be happy in this life. Like, you can't put your happiness on the back burner for anybody. And that includes your kids, because I feel like kids can sense when their parents are unhappy. So you're better off letting your kids seeing you, happy and just full of life and not drained and sad because you're in this miserable marriage. Now we move on to a short scene with Nicole and her boyfriend Anthony having a date night. Nicole says that they're both foodies. I'm like, well, aren't we all? But can I tell you, the only good part about this scene was all that food. They were ordering snapper and lobster and all these bottles of wine. I mean, my mouth was just watering as I was watching. So anyhow, Nicole brings up her dad and how her mom wants her to reconnect with him, but she doesn't want to because she still has a lot of resentment that he wasn't there. So we find out that Anthony's dad wasn't in his life either, and that's why he strives to be a great dad to their 2-year-old son, Grayson. Again, not a whole lot happened in this scene, so we can move right on along to the final scene of the night, which was beyond explosive. Ciao. Alexia, Frankie, Todd, they're at home. Todd and Alexia are having a nice glass of wine. We see Alexia's golden boy, her oldest son, who she just loves to coddle. He's there. Everybody, for the most part, seems to be in good spirits. Alexia is telling Peter all the wedding details and how she wants both of her boys by her side to walk her down the aisle. So Alexia is talking about how their wedding is the day after Peter's birthday. So we see Frankie, Peter, Todd, Alexia all sit down in the living room. And you can tell that Alexia wants Todd and Peter to talk. So she and Frankie get up to give Todd and Peter some privacy. But mind you, Alexia is in the next room peeking out and eavesdropping because she is nervous as hell and she wants to make sure this conversation goes smoothly. I said, Alexia girl, let them talk. Trust that this is all going to work out. Why do you need to stand in the shadows and eavesdrop on the conversation? You are better off just sitting there the whole time if you're going to stand by and watch them. It was just so silly to me. And she was so nervous. So Todd starts off the conversation and says, last time we saw each other, things got a little bit heated. Peter shakes his head because, things almost came to blows. And Todd continues by saying that every time you guys party, I'm the one who has to pick up the pieces. So Todd says, look, Peter, your brother looks up to you. He wants to spend time with you, and he would love for you to pick him up one day and play some basketball. Then he adds that Peter wants him to do things that he mentally and physically cannot do. So you can already tell that this conversation is about to go left. And Todd's like, look, if you don't like how I called you names, I still think that it's justified and I stand by it. Because how do you think I felt when I see Frankie passed out, blacked out, with 3 paramedics surrounding him and all these tubes connected to him? And like I said in a previous recap, I feel like Todd was justified in getting in Peter's ass too. Because had Frankie died, nobody would have wanted to hear an I'm sorry from Peter. Peter has to get his act together, period, point blank. So of course, Alexia can't let 2 grown men have a conversation. She comes out of the shadows and she starts hugging Peter and starts crying. So now she sits down and Frankie sits down next to Todd and she's like, me and Frankie just wanted to come out here because Frankie heard everything that was being said. So now Todd says, look, you guys have been living like this for the past 10 or 11 years now. It's time for you guys to get some help and really deal with this. So then he says, if you don't have time to play basketball with your brother, then you don't have time to light up a joint with your brother either. So now Alexia starts getting upset and she's like, look, our world was turned upside down when Frankie got into that horrific accident, okay? And maybe we do need help. So Todd says, yeah, y'all do need some help, but you guys haven't done anything to get some help. So now Alexia says, not too much, Todd. Like, be careful with your words because it's about to go left. Like, don't start. So now he's like, every time I say something, y'all attack me because you guys are in denial. So Todd says, when he's coming into my house, with black and blues and he's vomiting in my house. When I say something, you get upset. Then he calls Alexia an enabler, and so Alexia goes off, like she is livid. So Todd starts yelling and he's like, do something to help him. And he's talking about Frankie, of course, in all this. So he's like, I've been living with you for 4 years, and every single day, Frankie wakes up and he just plays on his iPhone all day. So now Alexia says, well, if you care so much, then why don't you take him with you when you travel for work? So now Todd says, well, that's not my son. So Alexia says, well, he's about to be your stepson, so if you care so much, then do something about it. So now Todd says, you have your older son out here drugging your younger son. So now Alexia's like, I told you, keep it real cute, stop bringing up the past, and stop saying that he drugged Frankie. He didn't drug Frankie. So again, Todd's like, well, he did drug him because he's passed out, can't move, can't breathe. Like, what is that? Like, he was drugged. So child, it's a whole mess. So now Peter says, I have to shave his balls and wipe his ass. Like, what are you talking about? I do a lot for my brother. So now Todd says, you know your brother's disabled, right? So now Peter is enraged hearing Todd say that about his brother. And so Peter's like, you know what? Let's fight. So Todd's sitting back. He's like, okay, you want to fight? Let's go. Like, I'm ready for you. We can fight here. We can fight in the kitchen. We can fight outside. Let me know the time or the place. Like, I'll wear you out. So now Todd calls Peter a loser and says that he's going to end up in jail. Then he says that Peter and Alexia are on a team and they're both in denial and they both need help. So now Peter's really upset and he's like, you always bring up every insecurity that I have and you throw it in my face. You even do it to my mom and I don't like that. You're always talking about my biological dad being in jail. You talk about my stepdad. You talk about my mom. You talk about everybody and that's not cool. So now Alexia gets upset. She's telling Peter and Todd to stop it. Then she says that Todd needs to give Peter more credit. And I was like, girl, give him more credit for what? So now Todd says, bottom line, you guys need help and y'all need it ASAP. So Alexia agrees and then she says that at the end of the day, they all want what's best for Frankie. So now Todd apologizes for his delivery and then they all share a great big group hug. Now let me just tell you something. I am on Todd's side all the way. I don't care that that's not his biological son. He is doing what a father should do. I'm glad that Todd is getting in Peter's ass because Peter has done a lot of nothing with his life. And Alexia coddles him and treats him like he's a baby. And it's really annoying to watch. I'm all for being affectionate. I'm all for being loving. But coddling somebody to their detriment isn't good. Peter takes zero accountability for his actions. And it's so crazy because the news just broke that Peter was arrested for hitting his girlfriend. I'll drop the link of the article below, but it's all over page 6 and the other blogs. Peter has had a lot of run-ins with the law, and I still remember what he did to that homeless man when he was 19, 20. The boy needs help. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I think it's a shame that Peter has no direction in life. It's clear he doesn't have anything that makes him feel fulfilled. He's just wandering around, not doing anything, putting his brother in harm's way. If you know that your brother is having some challenges, then why would you give him weed? Like, let's make it make sense. It just seems to be a never-ending pattern of Peter going down the wrong path. I'm glad that Todd is showing some tough love and he's getting Peter together because Peter needs to hear it. Peter just wants to be this rich guy who does absolutely nothing with his life and has his mom coddling him and telling him that whatever he does is okay. Well, that's not how it works. And when Alexia kept saying, well, you're not his father, and if you want to be like a father, then act like one. Well, that's him acting like a father. That's him saying, look, I love you, but you need to get your shit together. I want Peter to really grow up, and I want Alexia to stop all this babying him like he's going to die if he hears some criticism. But let me tell you something, Alexia. All this drama, this last scene made up for the entire episode. Alexia is clocking in for her check and she's understanding the assignment, and for that, I'm going to continue to give her the MVP award because the drama that she has is A+. But again, I'm on Todd's side. I was here for everything that he said to Peter because Peter needs to get it together immediately. And Alexia needs to stop coddling him and acting like whatever he does is okay when it's not. But y'all, I hope you all enjoyed my recap. Thank you all for watching. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.